Live. I'm Jeremiah here with Carly Pants. Hi, Carly.
Hello.
Carly Marley. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Fun stuff on the show today for all y'all watching.
Interesting stuff.
Interesting stuff.
I don't know how fun it is.
Well, it's probably not that fun. Fun stuff that we're going to do,
You should
like
take a
smoke
bong.
marijuana. Bong tokes
Bong
out of
tokes.
the new High Guy bong. She came on the show last time. We were calling her Goldie, but her earlier name, Blondie, I think is the one that's going to stick.
I like
David,
Blondie.
David liked it better, too. So we're calling her Blondie. She's a blonde. That's not objectifying women, by the way. I was accused one time, I always mention this, of objectifying women with my bongs because they were named after, a lot of my bongs are named girl names, but a lot of my bongs are actually named boy names too. So I equally objectify both sexes, just so you guys know.
Mine are usually all females.
You're the females?
Yeah, but to me, I was in cadets. I used to be a sailor.
Personification is objectification. I think maybe for some people, like if it's, calling all your sexy cars girls and stuff, I get that whole point.
Well, I don't know.
But
I think it all comes
cars
from
can
the
be boys
ships,
too,
right? It all comes from ships. They always called ships girls.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that was because they belonged. A lot of the time it was, I could be wrong. I know at one point it was because they were usually belonging to the Queen. So it would be Her Majesty's Canadian ship, and then it would be some female name a lot of the time. And to me, a bong or any water pipe, it's still a water vessel. And a car, it's still a method of transportation. So it makes sense to name it female to me. Plus, I mean, women get the short end of the deal a lot of the time. So I think it's nice that a lot of the time we have bongs named after us. And all the broski slugs you meet also are usually named boy names.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I actually named mine Abby because everyone I know usually names it like Gary or something.
In other
like
languages, in Spanish and Italian and other things, French, all items have genders.
Exactly.
Everything has a gender. So it already has a sex built in. So some of the naming of ships and other things like that may have come out of, Italian or other things. Who knows? But I'm not so sure, again, that objectification... Anyways, I don't know how we got off on this topic, but we were talking about the bong. It's a fun
Personification is different than objectification.
I think so.
And to me, it's kind of feeling like it's kind of like an honor that people name bongs after girls a lot of the time. And it's kind of cool that people name, like ships are really cool, amazing, majestic,
I guess
they're pretty impressive pieces of equipment, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think as a feminist, I don't have anything
I think
against
feminists,
it.
the reason that some of them might take offense to it is that you're naming property after, a woman, or saying that this woman is your property or something like that. I could see, why it might ruffle feathers. Anyways, I'm not sure why we're still talking about this, but it's not necessarily a pot topic, but I suppose it's an interesting political, philosophical, cultural topic.
I think there are bigger fish to fry if you're a feminist than whether or not people are naming their bongs girls' names.
Well, now we've got all the show up. I can see the chatters on Facebook and YouTube. And so we're going to play some videos. What's actually on the show today, not just talk about objectification and gender. We're going to talk about marijuana. We're going to talk about how the provinces are going to legalize cannabis dispensaries. Of course, legalization is destined to happen. Justin Trudeau says by July 2018, we're going to have legalization across the whole country, and all the provinces are trying to meet those targeted deadlines and come up with some sort of a plan to actually be able to sell cannabis in the provinces. So, of course, Ontario, we've been talking about on the show, has announced what they're going to do. They want to have a complete government monopoly, 100%, where all of the sales of marijuana in dispensaries will be controlled by the government. Of course, they'll probably make deals with the licensed producers, who are the only ones allowed to produce cannabis in Canada at the moment. And as we go through some news stories, you can see that some of the LPs have made deals or are making deals with other provinces to do just the same. So there could be more of this kind of stuff in store for other provinces, government monopolies, and the like. But there's also out here in British Columbia, where we're thinking that the provincial government's going to take a different attitude towards it, and hopefully they will support the dispensaries that exist now. I saw a news article this morning in, I think it was the Vancouver Sun, that was a poll. We should share this around if we can find this. A poll asking how should marijuana dispensaries be regulated in the province of British Columbia, and the vast majority of people had voted to license the existing dispensaries. So I think there's a lot of support. John Horgan, we're going to play an audio clip by John or from an interview with John Horgan on the radio, and in it he talks about the actual regulations, what he kind of has in mind. He seems like he's friendly to the dispensaries as well. Wasn't actually committing or saying anything, putting anything down on paper or anything, but it sounds like they're going to take a bit more of a relaxed approach to it, I would hope, because they know there's a lot of opposition from the dispensaries that have been here for so long in the province. 20 years doing this here. It's not like something that just popped up. No. So, or 15 years, I guess, 15 to whatever. It's a long time. So, a lot of chatters out there. We see people tuning in. What's up, guys? People from Switzerland.
Hi. Hello.
All kinds of
all
places.
All over the
here.
world.
Yeah, people always tune in from all over. And they're shouting them out in the chat. Shout out where you're from in the chat. It's always fun to see. Mm-hmm. And also on the show, we're going to play some videos by Cannabis Culture's Jody Emery. She's been in the media and in front of the Toronto Police Board speaking. She did some advising to the Toronto Police Board on a thing they did about marijuana recently. We're also going to play some video from a former Toronto mayor who was on the police board speaking panel or group of speakers who was talking about the fact that Toronto's marijuana laws are racist and that more people of color are going to jail for marijuana and less of them smoke pot. So he kind of railed against that, and it was pretty awesome. We're going to play that clip as well. So we got a bunch of stuff to play for you guys. There was something else. Did we have some other thing to play? No, that was pretty much it. So we're trying to keep it to a shorter show today. Last week's episode was 4 hours long.
And it was also supposed to be a shorter show.
It was supposed to be shorter too. Today's show will not be 4 hours. I can promise you that. I know some of you like the really, really long shows, but 4 hours is a marathon.
It's tiring.
Joy, what are we smoking on? Oh, is that the Lime Kush from Cannabis Culture? This is.
I tore the top off. Sorry.
You tore that. That's okay. You ruined the package. Yep.
Maybe
this is
Leslie can grab us some
Lime
filters.
Kush. This was vending machine pot in a box.
Yeah. Maybe
Filters.
Some filters there.
So
I don't have to tear more
tips?
of the box
see.
up.
That's what was happening here. There you are. Yes. All right. So I also wanted to talk about the campaign to elect Watermelon here in Vancouver. Dun 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 dun. Cindy's here, and we have Ann here too, and of course Boss Lissa is on the boards as usual, and Watermelon poster. There she is.
That's not our official poster.
That's not the official poster.
No, that was one that was
This is the David Melmo Levine poster.
designed for fun, and you'll see them popped around in different places.
Yes. Did you want to come and say anything? Talk on the microphone? Yeah, here, come on over. Let's talk. Let's chat about the Watermelon campaign. Cindy's coming on. You look fantastic. Oh, you look good. Yeah, so this one's not the official poster. This is just the Melmo Levine Bob High poster. Or is it Bob High? I'm not sure if it's Bob High or not. I can't.
I think our friend Signy drew that, actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. There you go. There you are. Hello.
I've been on for a while, so it's nice to be back and see you guys all happy.
Mm-hmm.
Good to have you on again. So the Watermelon campaign is kicking off. We have other campaign materials. Yes, you have the brochure. So tell us about where I just saw the news that she's now official.
Yes, you can check out the City of Vancouver website, and they have all 9 candidates listed there and a little bio about each of them. So it's not going to be an easy race when we have that many people.
Yeah.
Several don't have a party associated with them, but there's a name on a ballot.
That's cool. Is there anybody that looks like their competition?
Well, hear a lot of support for Jean Swanson. She's a grassroots activist as well, right? Yeah. So, and the other ones, of course, I don't know their names, but Vision has one, and COPE, and the NPA.
Are there any dogs or plants running for?
I didn't see any unusual. A watermelon, Mary Jean Dunstan watermelon, and then it says Sensible Vancouver. So it's quite lengthy to begin with. We will be the longest name
It
on
says
the
watermelon
ballot.
and big huge. Oh, that's so
Behind her
awesome.
name, it does include the
That
name
is
watermelon.
absolutely fantastic. Yes, I was joking about the dog thing, but we did see a news article, a
send it
news
to
story
you.
from a couple days ago that a dog is running for mayor or something.
Oh, I did
in,
see that
I'll
too.
send it to you right now
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
I saw that
Facebook,
too.
Hilarious, these dogs.
so we can show it off.
I love when animals or plants run for.
Plants.
I shared it and I
City
said,
council seats
finally,
or
a politician I can trust.
Yeah, that's one of the pre-rolls, is it? That you guys said?
Is
This
this, a
one's not
pre-roll?
a
Oh no,
pre-roll,
that's
no.
a Carly roll.
Thanks, though.
I just wasn't
She's
sure.
got skills. It's almost like a pre-roll.
A lot
so
of practice
other-
on the shows.
So that's very
Things.
cool. Votewatermelon.ca is the website.
We want as many people and businesses to allow their workers and friends to go vote on the pre-voting days. So that'll be October 4th, October 10th. And if we could get 5,000 people out for each one of those days, that gives us a heck of a good start for
Yeah.
the main election day, which will be Saturday, October 14th. So we are rolling out our bus next week. It's going to be a sight to see. Wait till you guys see this. We're going to try to get a bus stop right out here. You can book it with the city in advance, so I'm working on that on a side job.
Very cool.
The bus looks like a beautiful, fresh slice of watermelon coming down the street. And people are going to be pointing, they're going to be smiling, they're going to be remembering watermelon, watermelon. So I can't wait to see it next week. I've only seen pictures so far.
Exciting.
It's very exciting. We have a campaign office down on Hastings, 878 Hastings, East Hastings. So we're there a lot of the times. I don't think we're there this weekend, but next week we'll be there every day. We're canvassing tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday. If you want to come down, we're meeting right out front here in front of Cannabis Culture, actually next door, the Dominion Building. We're meeting at 5 o'clock. So
Very
if you want
cool.
to come meet some cool people and come canvass with us, we would love it.
And you can, if you're at home in front of a computer, you can sign up for some of this stuff at votewatermelon.ca/join
Join us. Yes, we want you to come join us. We have 80 volunteers. We don't see them all the time, but we need more people to join us next week and the week after. We're also having a wonderful rally on October 2nd, so that is something we'll talk about on the next show when I know more information about the entertainment and such that we're going to have there.
Excellent.
But that's going to be at the Wise Hall on October 2nd.
Oh, we just heard about this. Anne was telling us earlier. She already spilled the beans.
We
Yeah.
want a couple hundred people there because it's also going to be a media release party.
Oh, very cool.
So, yeah,
Exciting.
I want you guys to come for sure.
What's the date on that one again?
That'll be October 2nd, but we'll be
October
talking
2nd.
about that. We got a few more things to do before October starts.
Very
right?
cool.
We got all this month. So if you want to join us, like Jeremiah gave you the address, we also meet every day, 878 East Hastings. It's going to be probably 5 o'clock every day next week. And yeah, thanks. I don't know what else to say right now.
I
but,
love-
Well, I was
she
gonna
is
ask.
awesome. She'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask. You know, it's so awesome having a politician like this working to get, you know, in on city council. It's really exciting. And if people are maybe interested in supporting her as a politician because they're really behind her platforms and they'd like to see her have a say in the Vancouver policies, since Vancouver has such an impact on the way that British Columbia does things, and that has
Definitely
such a way
leads
that
the way.
Yeah, so I heard something that people are able to support her with funding if they don't live in
Yes,
Vancouver.
we have a
right?
donate page. Of course, I should have mentioned that. It's sensiblevancouver.ca, and you can donate funds there. Votewatermelon.ca also, they link up together.
And like Carly said, you don't have to be from Vancouver to contribute to the
Donate.
campaign. You can be from anywhere in the world.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll accept
So
your donation.
Get our Saudi Arabian contributors.
Well, maybe they're I can imagine if I was living in
Yeah.
a province or in a city or even in a country where there's no politicians that are running with this sort of campaign, it might be nice to put my voice out there in some way and say, even if it's with $1, $2, just to say, I support this kind of platform. I support this kind of campaign.
Yeah. And everyone knows someone here and can help get their friends and family motivated to vote. We
Yeah.
want to bring it into the workplaces because, most businesses have 30 employees or more or less, right? So we want to bring it into these kinds of places where they all go vote together. They get time off to go vote. And we're also got some beautiful watermelon stickers that are going to come out. We're going to be giving those out after you vote.
Very cool. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
We have so much fun, and we'd love for you to come join us and help us get Mary Jean Dunstan elected to City Council.
Mary Jean loves the Mary Jane.
She's so much fun to hang out with, and she is so hard working right now. We have her working as hard as us.
Busting her ass
yeah.
for the campaign.
On
Good.
top of already running businesses across the
Yeah.
city and all of her activism.
She owns
that
2
does,
stores.
so.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So
she's an
that's-
entrepreneur,
that's a lot of work.
renter. She knows what it's like and faces all the challenges in the city that we do, right? So she's an excellent voice, and we're calling her a fresh new voice for City Council, and hopefully everyone will jump on board of the watermelon bus next week.
Yeah. VoteWatermelon.ca.
Yes, thanks, guys.
We're going
I
to do some
appreciate
live
all your
stuff.
support.
I'm doing
Yeah.
a show on. I'm doing a ladies' night show next week on Monday. So
Oh.
I'd love to have you and maybe
And Mary Jean?
Watermelon on.
Oh,
Of
yeah.
course, I'd love to have you
Yeah.
guys on.
And Watermelon was on a few weeks ago. You
Yeah,
can
she was.
find that video up on
watched
pot.tv.
it.
Yeah, she joined the show. We're going to have her back again before the end of the campaign. And we're going to follow her around on her tour bus.
Yeah, we'll have
Get some live
footage.
video of that.
Sure,
That
we
should
will.
be fun.
We have
Yeah.
some
That
videographers. We have all kinds of positions available too. Like, you don't just have to canvass. I guess I should mention that. We need data entry people. We need technical, logical people that can input stuff.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, there's so many different
need your
things. We
help.
need your contacts. If you know dispensary owners that are not in contact with us already, then we would love that information to get them on board so we can put posters and signs in their dispensaries.
Yeah, exactly.
That's next week.
Big time. Well, we need as much support as possible. Really, we only need about 30,000 votes to win this.
Correct.
So get out there. Your vote does actually matter here, and it could be that that 1 or 2 votes puts us past the line. So
That's right.
we
and
really
that's
need
why
to-
the advanced voting days are very, very important,
Yeah.
right? The more we can show that day, keep the lineup straight out the door, we'll put pressure on them, and they'll
Yeah.
have someone to worry about.
What would you
Come-
say
Get
our
out. Don't
chances
forget
are
stoners.
with a by-election
We'll call you.
versus a
You're on
regular
the list.
election?
Well, because there's only one seat, and there's 9 people vying for this one seat, whereas when the main election comes next fall, next November, so it's only a year away again, there'll be several more candidates vying for 10 seats. So
So if we're interested in getting a candidate like this in Vancouver into City Council, the by-election that's coming up would be the most important time to vote for sure, because she'll have the
Absolutely.
best odds at that point.
and then we can run a whole gamut of contestants. No, that's not the
Ah.
right word. Candidates.
A slate. Yes.
Candidates. All next year in November, we can have 5, 6, or 7, just like they do.
Yeah, exactly. We really should do that. Sensible Vancouver. That's the name of the political party.
Yep.
Mary Jean Dunstan. That's the name of the candidate.
Thanks, everybody. I gotta go.
Thank
we
you,
got
Cindy.
1,000 folders to fly tonight.
Yep.
Fold,
Good.
see, I'm
Fold
busy,
and fly.
but-
It's a lot of
Thanks
work.
again.
All
You
that
guys take
folding and
care.
Flying. Bye, Cindy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. So
Follow
get on
Sinful
board this
Cindy on
campaign.
Instagram.
Get on board. Yes. Yeah, and really, if you want to be able to buy fine quality marijuana, like the stuff I'm about to smoke, and if you want to be able to get fine quality extracts here in the city of Vancouver, you have to get out and vote for Watermelon. Because right now the government wants to make all of that illegal, and we don't have anybody on our team on city council. So that's right. I'm Jeremiah. This is Carly Marley. We're saying vote Watermelon.
Vote for Watermelon.
There you go.
Here.
Now, yes, let's smoke some of this marijuana. Bam. This is Scoutmaster from Cannabis Culture Dispensary. This one's from Davie Street. 1674 Davie Street. It was in the vending machine, actually. Or it wasn't actually. It never made it to the vending machine because I took
Because
it.
it smells too good.
Mm.
You guys are funny.
This thing hits really well.
It does.
Yeah, it's got a good airflow. I wanted a high guy that didn't have an ice pinch or a curl, the twist in it. I wanted the straight pipe.
I like that it's just
Got
got
that
the high
airflow.
guy, the clear high guy, like, embossed thing. As opposed to, like, sometimes they have, like, the red logo. Sometimes the logo's a little bit bigger. They do all sorts of, like, pearls and stuff.
It's
I like
true.
that it's just, like, bong, and then it's just got the little simple logo.
just very
it's so
clean.
discreet, but it's still got the, like, class of a high guy. It's so nice. I love it.
I like it.
It suits you,
Yeah,
Jeremiah.
usually the other high guys, well, ones that you get that are this tall, they're usually a little bit taller, like maybe 2 inches taller, 3 inches, and those ones are the ones that are a little thicker of a pipe. They usually have a color rim on the top of them. They're super classic. We've been using them here at Cannabis Culture and Pot TV for years.
We usually have some available for rental at our Cannabis Culture Lounge here at 307
I think
West
they're the
Hastings.
prettiest. I really love them. I know they're not like there's so many other cool, heady, crazy bongs and really expensive bongs. These bongs are affordable. They're made in Canada. They're extremely like beautiful, gorgeous pieces.
It's hard to find heady flower bongs. It really is, because most glass artists
Right.
now are really
It's all
designing
dab.
rigs, and then
Right.
if you want to use that as a little bubbler, you can. Most people are buying still, mass-produced bongs, and I feel like the high guys are a really good compromise, because you get something that you can pick up at your average head shop, and it's not irreplaceable. You'll probably be able to find something that's at least similar in a reasonable price range, but they're made in Canada. They're like locally blown. They're really good quality. They're classic bongs. They're great. So, hi guys.
Yeah, I plan on getting a few
You can
more.
buy them
because
online
I
at
really, I really love
cannabisculturehq.com.
high-res. You can. Yep. I just found this one I was actually in the Puff warehouse, and that's where this was sitting, and I saw it, and I thought it was beautiful. I like a clear, clean one. Haven't had one like that before. I had a smaller one like that, Junior. See, named after a boy. Junior was a male bong, personified as a male. There you go. So we should probably play one of these videos and talk about some of the provincial stuff we came here to discuss today.
Oh, yes, and you can also say that state municipal leads to.
It's very true. The municipal is extremely important, and it really does lead to the provincial stuff as well, because the local communities are going to have a lot of say in how we're hoping that they have a lot of say in what John Horgan decides to do. So maybe we should start with this. Actually, let's start with the Jody video, because that's a little bit something more visually entertaining. And then we're going to, afterwards, listen to an audio clip, John Horgan on the John McComb show.
Are we going to
on
just
the radio.
listen to it and we can just do dabs?
We
while
can do
listen?
dabs. Yeah, we can listen and do dabs in the
That's
background.
such a fun plan.
Yeah. So we're gonna play a Jody video first. Now we're gonna play Jody on the news. This was Jody and Ben Mulrooney on the getting into the pot issue, the Cannabis Act stuff. So we're going to talk about that. And then we have video of Jody speaking to the Toronto Police Board. Also, the former mayor of Toronto talking to the police board about its racist drug war. So I guess he's the police accountability guy. So he is.
Oh, is that 420?
That's my parking timer.
Oh.
That means I gotta do my parking. As soon as,
it is
as soon as we
4:20
play this, I'll do my parking. So watch Jody while I do my parking. Oh yeah, and it's going to be on Pod TV here. You can find this video on our website, Pod TV. Yeah, this one's good. I haven't actually watched this whole thing myself either, so let's check it out. It doesn't seem to be playing. Let's try it again. Oh, that's odd. Strange. Uh-oh, our whole program's freezing up here. That's weird. I wonder if we're still broadcasting. Uh-oh.
Oh, jeez.
My buttons froze.
Stretching my back.
Broadcast interrupted.
Oh, no.
That's the first time that's happened in a while. Are we still? Uh-oh.
Internet's been...
I'm not even sure. I think, are we off? Okay. Damn.
We're on Facebook, did you say?
Yeah, we're probably off on both. Are we back in action? I think we're back. Hoo-wee. Hi, guys. Sorry about that. We had a major crash. Whole system had to be restarted and shut down. Nothing was working, so that doesn't happen very much anymore since we've been using XSplit, but today it didn't like our video for some reason, so we're going to try it again. We're going to risk it and try it again and see if it happens. I think it could have just been a fluke, but or it could be that the video's a killer. But if it happens again, then we'll do the whole thing again, and we'll come back. Did we want to smoke anything or anything before that? Is there a bong toke? I wouldn't mind having a bong toke.
There's some weed. I'm going to do a dab. So.
Oh, nice. Where's the weed? Oh, beautiful. And what are you dabbing on?
Mystery High Times entry.
Ah.
I don't know how many weeks in a row that is now. But
Yeah, that High Times kit's lasted a while. It was pretty big. It's still going strong. And because the High Times people put so much in each container, it just takes a while to go through it all.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I don't smoke a lot of indica dabs, so I feel like I have mainly indica products left because I only smoke them right before I go to bed. So
Yeah.
sativas I burn through pretty quickly.
Wow, and now that I open the system up, it seems to be opening some of my old windows. Maybe it'll open the window for chat. Maybe not. That could be wishful thinking. But it is doing stuff.
But either way, hello everybody out there in
Hello.
chat.
Hi, chatters. Hopefully you're all back. Y'all back. Mm. Is this working? Oh, it is. Oh, now we hear volume. Sorry, you could hear Jody talking back there. Oh, no, it changed. The John Horgan one went away. Wonder where it went. That's okay, I can get it back up. So, we still have these videos here. We're going to try to play Jody on Ben Mulrooney's show again right now, and we'll see how that goes. Let's give it a try. Let's try this. Oh, and it's on the Pod TV website. So we're going to hit play here. Last time, it was when it didn't start the first time around, I tried to hit play again, and that's when it stalled. Oh. Uh-oh. Maybe we should do this. What happened there?
I went too hot.
I think that there's something funny going on here. It doesn't want to work. Let's try one more time.
Later this week, pot activist
Yay.
Jody Emery will testify at a Commons standing committee looking at the Liberal government's proposed cannabis legalization bill, and she joins me now from Ottawa. Jody, thanks for making time this morning.
Well, thank you for having me.
So I've been following you on Twitter for a while, and recently you've been putting the word legalization in quotes. So I'm guessing that when you speak to this committee, it's not going to be favorable stuff.
Well, unfortunately, it seems as though legalization is being presented as an opportunity for the government to criminalize everybody as they've always done before. If the law is going to be changed, we need to see the existing industry not be criminalized. We need to see peaceful, nonviolent Canadians not be criminalized. But if the law introduces tough new penalties and grants the police more money to go after people under legalization, then what exactly does legalization mean?
To me, it seems that there are two tracks. There's the federal government's legalization framework, and then it's up to the provinces to figure out how they are going to regulate within that legal framework. The Ontario government has released its plan to create a cannabis control board. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's a terrible idea. First of all, marijuana legalization was supposed to allow the existing industry to come out of the shadows and into the light. So the federal government is controlling all the production, and the provinces will be allowed to control the distribution. But if you're not allowed to grow it and sell it unless you're authorized by the government, you're still a criminal. The Ontario plan is so terrible because we should be allowing entrepreneurs and innovators and small business, medium, big business to be allowed to create jobs and create tax revenue. Instead, the Ontario government is going to force taxpayers to subsidize hundreds of millions of dollars in a new bureaucracy that they admit won't even make money, won't be able to replace the existing market. So what is it all for? It seems as though marijuana legalization federally and provincially is going to result in taxpayers being forced to pay for even more law enforcement, denied the ability to enjoy the tax revenues and the benefits. And when we talk about why we should legalize, we really should be focusing on the benefits of health, not the harm to health that the government keeps promoting.
So Jody, pie in the sky this for me. If in your view the Ontario model is, let's call it a worst practice, what would you recommend other provinces to adopt in order to have best practices?
Well, sadly, the provinces won't be able to do anything about the production of cannabis. They're only allowed to distribute what the federal government provides. So the federal government's control over the creation and distribution, the production of marijuana will starve the provinces if they don't have enough. We know that the licensed producers of medical marijuana, who exist because of lawbreakers challenging and changing the law, these medical marijuana producers want to serve the recreational market, but they can't even meet the needs of the patients they're required to serve. So again, this existing industry worth billions of dollars of tens of thousands of peaceful Canadians growing cannabis, they should be allowed the opportunity to come forward and be legalized. And regular retailers should be allowed to set up their own individual store or a chain of stores. Anything like a coffee shop or a bar or a restaurant, there should be no sort of exclusion to the people, especially who had been involved in this industry and criminalized and punished for it for so long.
Well, Jody, you co-own a dispensary chain, and as part of this regulatory framework that Ontario is suggesting, they're going to be shutting down everything that isn't within their new framework. What steps can you take? What recourse do you have and fellow dispensary owners have in the face of this massive change?
Well, 6 months ago, I was arrested and charged, and I'm facing very serious charges and even long prison time. Life in prison is a potential possibility for me, for my peaceful activism. So I don't own dispensaries anymore. Cannabis Culture is a magazine and an organization that only briefly did dispensaries as civil disobedience. But we were trying to demonstrate what legalization should look like. The ability of franchises or independent owners to set up a business, providing a need. A federal court judge even said dispensaries at the heart of access. And when we talk about drugs in this country, obviously opioids and the fentanyl crisis is at the top of people's minds. Well, the United States National Institute on Drug Abuse and the American Journal on Public Health and the Journal of the American Medical Association, they've all looked into cannabis and opioids and show that 25% reduction in overdoses when you introduce marijuana. So more marijuana and more marijuana dispensaries reduce opioid overdoses and deaths. We really need more access in this country, and we shouldn't let the fears of prohibition of the past dictate laws that will criminalize peaceful people now and in the future.
Jody Emery from Ottawa, thanks for your perspective on this.
Thank you for the time.
We turned our mics off. Oh, maybe turn the heat down a little bit. Yeah, our mics were off. we were saying nice things about Jody. It's going to be a little heated in here right now. Unfortunately, our system, when we watch videos, it's very quiet in-house. You guys can hear it a lot louder than we can. So we had to turn our mics off as well as shutting it off in the system. But we were saying Jody just does such a great job. She's such a great advocate of our cause. She just nails it, knocks it out of the park every time. She just has all the points. You can't argue with this stuff. Ben Mulrooney is hilarious. But yeah, that was really great. Jody's totally awesome.
We love you, Jody.
Love you, Jody. And we also have video of Jody speaking to the Toronto Police Board and the former mayor of Toronto speaking to the police board about the racist policies of the police force. We're going to watch those in a little bit. First, I think we should listen to John Horgan and what he says about what's going on in the province of British Columbia. He is the new leader of our province, the premier, voted in a crazy, weird alliance that happened with the Green Party, because the Greens managed to scoop some votes, giving them just enough to kill the Liberals and kick them out of the place. So Christie had to get booted, and she's gone now. We got John in there, and he's a lot friendlier to our community than we've heard from other provinces so far. That's why I wanted to play this radio interview, because he gets into that on it. So we lost it here. I'm going to restart it.
This is the John McComb Show podcast.
We're going to do dabs in the background.
Next
You guys
place
can
to make
see
more
us
profit.
because
Pot, and then basically they're saying
here. Uh-oh.
I'm going to start with a really big dab, and this one's for my friend who's tuning in. So thanks
there
for
you go.
tuning
Then
in.
be
Caitlin,
removed
Thanks
to
for
go-
tuning in, everybody. But I'm going to take a big dab just for you.
Yes. And then we'll turn our mics off again.
Yeah. Okay.
But hold on a second.
I'm going to turn mine off.
Okay.
Go to the next place
We'll
to
make sure
make
to
more
turn it back
profit.
on. I just got to find
I want to move along the issue of
it is.
marijuana. July is when the federal government is going to make its move to legalize pot. And then basically they're saying to the provinces, okay, you sort it out. Where is BC in terms of sorting it out?
Well, we've been working on that from our time in opposition, John. I sent Mike Farnworth down to Washington and Oregon while we were still in opposition to talk to policymakers and to see what they were doing there with legalization and how were they looking at distribution and regulation. So we got a head start on that while we were in opposition. When Mr. Trudeau won the election back in October 2015, it struck me that policymakers were finally catching up with people on the question of marijuana, and now we have to make sure that the provincial government has been tasked with putting in place a regulatory framework that protects kids, keeps marijuana away from young people. It's a controlled substance, regardless of its legality, and we want to make sure that the distribution system is in place that benefits those who want to participate as entrepreneurs, but we need to regulate it, and we're going to do that in a variety of ways, starting with talking to people about how they want to proceed. And that means, again, working with local councils, City of Vancouver, City of Victoria, two that I know well. There's just been an explosion of private dispensaries on almost every street corner in some cases. That's not going to work. The market will figure some of that stuff out, but we want to make sure there's a regime in place that protects the public and also is compliant with where the federal government wants to go.
Ontario has just announced that they're going to sell pot through their liquor store system. Does that attract you at all?
Well, that's certainly an option. And again, as a controlled substance, it's appropriate that you have people that are in the business of monitoring who's coming in and who's going out, what they're buying, and in what volumes. There's also, I think, the dispensaries have proven to be an effective way of attracting attention. There's also pharmacies as well for those who are focused explicitly on medicinal marijuana. I think there's a range of options. We're going to look at all of them, and my sense, John, at the start of this discussion is that any one of those individually or together is going to be an appropriate response for us to where the public wants to go with this. But the time is long past waiting. We need to make sure we're squishing out the black market, and that means not setting the price point too high. You've heard people say that this is a great windfall of tax revenue. It's not been the case in Washington and Oregon. If you set the price too high, then the black market continues to exist and the regulation won't matter. I mean, it's a plant after all. People are growing plants in their basement right now or in their backyard. So if we're going to regulate this, we have to be realistic about how we're going to manage that.
Any sense of the timing on this? You've got less than a year. There'll be consultation, et cetera. When do you expect to come up with a plan?
Well, I've heard some other provinces have appealed to the feds to have more time. I don't believe we need to do that. BC is a mature jurisdiction. I'd like to say when it comes to marijuana, as everyone knows, there's a lot of marijuana in British Columbia, has been for a long time. We have our neighbors to the north and the south, Alaska and Washington, are already legal. I think we can get on this as quickly as possible. I fully intend to meet the July 1st deadline. But there's a lot of people to talk to. There's fear and uncertainty and some anxiety in communities, and we want to make sure that we ease that and bring in a plan that'll work for everybody.
We appreciate your time as always. Thank you for taking the time to join our program this morning.
Thanks, John. I'll talk to you again.
So that was John Horgan and John McComb, and I think that's CKW. Yep. Is your mic on? Turn it on. No?
Did we need it on?
Well, Once you're done coughing. How was that dab? Hit you hard. Good stuff. So that was good. I mean, it wasn't, he didn't really put down anything. He didn't really say 100% he was with dispensaries, but at least he mentioned them. And without, the terms, without saying they were going to all be shut down by the cops in the same sentence. So that's a positive development. You're making me want to cough. That was I took a nice couple big bong tokes there too. So we're going to play some more Jody videos here. Yeah, and I lost my chat on my phone because my battery died, but I'm going to try to bring it up here. We're both coughing. That was the high time stuff. Maybe that was, you did hit a bunch. I saw you kept hitting it and hitting it. It was
really
going and going. It was a big dab. So here, I'm getting a chat here. Sorry, just going to take a second. Oh, there's the chatters. We'll get out. Pop out chat. No, it happens. Sometimes you just can't help but cough, especially when you're taking big dabs.
Why are you taking a dab though? It's not even coughing. I'm super stoned now.
Yeah, exactly. Now I at least have a YouTube chat. Hi, YouTubers. So we'll play, before we play Jody speaking to the police board, we're going to go in order. So I keep talking about this guy. I don't have his name in front of me, but wait. Oh, my phone died. I had him on the list here, but he's a former, you have your iPad? We'll get that up so I can grab his name by the end of it. I don't think they may mention it in the video itself, but they don't have a title card with it. So this is the former, he's I guess a police accountability chief or police accountability person, and he kind of gives the police what for. So we'll get that up in a sec here. You guys watch the video right now. It's talking about, there's a Toronto Star article that came out recently with a lot of statistics showing that the drug war in Toronto, the war on marijuana, is really racist. And it's racist against people of color, and it goes after them. The stats show much more than white people, and white people smoke a lot more pot. So it's really unfair, and he points that out. So this is pretty good stuff. Let's check it out.
Anti-black racism exists, and the province through its anti-racism directorate. Now, what do you see as the role of the Ontario Human Rights Commission in protecting the rights of its citizens and being involved in this whole episode of selective racism?
I certainly think that they can play a very strong role, and you should involve them. But I guess what I'm worried about is that the board will take a position that says, let's get them in to study it and figure out what to do, which is going to take some years. And I think you want some action that can happen right away. So, but I certainly think the Ontario Human Rights Commission has a strong role to play, and they've been very outspoken on these kinds of questions in the past.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jeffers. Ms. Balmer, I thought that you had your hand up. No? Okay, Councillor Carroll.
So, let me understand. Have you've had only a quick look at how the other provinces do this? Are you not concerned that if we have that extra layer, and we're going to ask this question of the service as well, unless we put a Crown Attorney in every division, would it not lead to more detaining while we have a Crown Attorney make that determination?
No, you aren't determined. No, I don't think you detain somebody when they haven't there's no charge laid against them.
Well,
I mean, and
what happens during the period where we're waiting to get the Crown Attorney's opinion? I want to understand this, because if it helps, I want to understand how it would work.
So I guess there's two things. One, the Crown Attorney is right there on.
And Mariana Erasmus, and this was from a letter submitted by Mr. John Sewell. So the petition is from Mr. John Sewell.
Yeah, this is where it should have started instead.
On the Toronto Police Accountability
I think that it
Coalition.
jumped to the wrong spot. So here you guys go from the actual beginning here.
Former Mayor Joe Sewell, you know the rules, so you got 5 minutes to
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to begin by saying I resented being searched in order to enter this building. I found it very demeaning, and I think it was demeaning to other people as well. And I think it does this board no service to institute that kind of a practice. And I hope you'll abandon it very, very quickly. I might say that my colleague, because I know him, I've seen him here many, many times, Carl Lagensfield, has refused to consent to the search and is not being allowed in. I think he's a debutant in one of the items. I think somebody should go down and escort him in. He's well known to this board, and this is craziness.
The board
I'm
is
here
not
to
in.
formally talk about a report that was in the Toronto Star some months ago, indicating they've analyzed the data of the Toronto Police Service, but for the years before 2014, indicating that black people are arrested 3 times as more likely than white people for the simple possession of marijuana. All the data indicates that, in fact, blacks don't use marijuana any more frequently than whites do, so it's very clear that what's happening is we have black racism that's happening in the practice of the Toronto Police Service. And this is reprehensible. This is not the kind of conduct that we want to see any public service providing. And there's no reason for thinking that what happened before 2014 is not happening today. We suspect it is. All the data has indicated that this kind of black racism has been taking place, and we have to find a way to stop it. We know that the board has all sorts of policies about racial discrimination, and that's terrific. But what we're talking about here is practice. How do we get the police to stop discriminating against blacks? And I think that, in fact, the board is going to have to take some action to ensure that this does not continue. It's going to be difficult to do it, but I think you have to do it. And I think you have to do it probably by starting and saying police officers are not going to be allowed to lay charges against people until that charge is justified by some person, such as a Crown Attorney or some independent person. So that you can actually start to say, if we're beginning to arrest too many people of a certain color, then we're going to stop it right away. But I think some kind of action must be set in place to stop this practice. I think it's reprehensible that because of the color of your skin, you're going to be treated differently by the police than other people for something very, very serious, a criminal charge, and perhaps being held without release. So it's very important that you put in place some structures to stop this occurring. It's not a policy, it's going to be a practice. And as I say, I think the only way to do it is to say police are not allowed to lay charges, individual officers, until that charge is justified by somebody else, some person who is a bit more independent. And that's the only way that I can see you stopping that kind of discrimination. And I'd ask the board to consider that kind of a policy and put it in place quickly so that we no longer have this reprehensible behavior. If this behavior happened in any other part of the civil service, people would be furious. And the fact that the police get away with it is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Steele. Any questions? Mayor Tory, I saw him putting up his hand first.
Mr. Sewell, thank you. Could I just ask, are you aware, or whether anybody in your organization has done any research on whether there is any kind of a, I'll call it a fail-safe or something along the lines of what you suggested that's in place anywhere else? I mean, I haven't studied other sort of, I guess you want to call it legal and police systems to know whether the police in every case lay the charge or whether there's any kind of a,
Well, I know that in 3 other provinces, Crown attorneys have to approve charges laid by the police. There's 2 experiments that are now happening in Ontario, one at 51 Division, where that is, there's a Crown lodged in 51 who's checking out those charges. So I think you can say that it is happening elsewhere. I might say that the impact of that is very, very substantial. The number of charges that actually are laid in places like Quebec, where they have this, are 22% less than Ontario. But in fact, the key is what happens to charges when they get to court. In Ontario, something like 44% of all the charges that are laid are withdrawn or dismissed by the court in Ontario. Almost half. In Quebec, it's more in the order of 10 or 11%. So it's clear that some kind of monitoring like that can have a very, very strong impact. I don't know if in Quebec or British Columbia or New Brunswick, which are the other three provinces that actually have that kind of monitoring, that monitoring is done in order to ensure that there is no racial prejudice. I don't know whether that's occurring, but it's clear that it could be used in that fashion.
Well, thank you. Mr. Chair, I'll just mention I'm going to ask the Chief a question after about the 51 and about whether we know the results of these other provinces, because if we don't, it'd be useful to get that information for the board.
I think Mr. Jeffers put up his hand as well.
Mr. Sewell, you know, in view of what you've stated with the anti-black racism that you've acknowledged, and by the way, it's been acknowledged by the City of Toronto, anti-black racism exists, and the province through its anti-racism directorate. Now, what do you see as the role of the Ontario Human Rights Commission in protecting the rights of its citizens and being involved in this whole episode of selective racism?
I certainly think that they can play a very strong role, and you should involve them. But I guess what I'm worried about is that the board will take a position that says, let's get them in to study it and figure out what to do, which is going to take some years. And I think you want some action that can happen right away. So, but I certainly think the Ontario Human Rights Commission has a strong role to play, and they've been very outspoken on these kinds of questions in the past.
Thank you, Ms. Jeffers. Ms. Ballmer, I thought that you had your hand up. No? Okay, Councilor Carroll.
So, let me understand. Have you've had only a quick look at how the other provinces do this? Are you not concerned that if we have that extra layer, and we're going to ask this question of the service as well, unless we put a Crown Attorney in every division, would it not lead to more detaining while we have a Crown Attorney make that determination?
No, you aren't determined. No, I don't think you detain somebody when they haven't had there's no charge laid against them.
Well,
I mean, and
what happens during the period where we're waiting to get the Crown Attorney's opinion? I want to understand this, because if it helps, I want to understand how it would work.
So I guess there's two things. One, the Crown Attorney is right there on site. That's one thing. Okay?
Okay.
The second thing is, if that's not an appropriate way of getting rid of racial determination, then I think you've got to start figuring out some other way of doing it. Yeah. But for too long is all we've had is a policy and haven't had the action. And so I'm just suggesting the kind of thing. I'm not responsible. I'm not a member of the Police Services Board. So, but in fact, you people are responsible for doing that, and this has been left too long. That's one possible way of doing it. I might also say we're dealing with something that is very minor. Possession of marijuana. I mean, you know, this is real. This is not significant. This is not murder or, you know, a crime of violence. So it's you know, so I think one has to be quite clear about that.
So, and one other question, and this is for the coalition, the whole coalition. One of the things that struck me about the article, and I thank you for bringing it, because I had missed this article when it appeared in the Star. It wasn't until you brought it to our attention. I don't know how I missed it when it was published, but be that as it may, now that we're looking at it, what struck me is that, you know, there was a struggle for the newspaper to really collate the data all along the line. Does the coalition advocate in terms of collecting race-based data? It's not just who do we stop today, but really all along the chain. You want to be you know,
I think so.
bail conditions, et cetera. you're in favor of race-based data all along the chain so that we can really follow not just who is stopped, who is considered for charges, but their path all the way along. How is it different? We would have to be recording it all the way along.
I think so, yes. I'm
Okay.
not quite sure how far you're going, but the answer at this point is yes. Until we actually have some kind of service where it's clear there is not continual racial discrimination, we have to start doing that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Seeing none?
So yeah, that was great. Crazy stuff. And the drug war has always been racist. That's how it started. Is your mic on now? There you go. Yeah. It's true though. It's that's how the drug war really was installed in the first place. Was all just racial stuff against minorities, against Mexicans and black people in the United States. So it's pretty savage from the beginning, and it just continues. And you can see that they use it. And he's saying, "Oh, this isn't murder or anything. This is just marijuana," but you can see that it exposes this racial discrimination that the police have. So it's kind of scary.
And the amount of people that end up dying when they're actually in prison, a lot of the time because they like commit suicide because they're so depressed in there, like it's not a good place to be. So regardless of even whether or not you live, your life gets taken away for sure. The life that you had before you were in prison is taken away.
Going
It's
to
a
prison
different life.
isn't a good thing.
No.
And it does ruin people's lives, and even just having a criminal record is not good. It hurts people, and you can't travel to the United States and all kinds of other stuff. So it's
But you're
really
right.
an impediment to life in general, and it does destroy people's lives.
When you see cops doing a certain thing too, and they're executing a law that's has racist motivations, and then they're acting on it in a racist way, you know, society looks up to cops. And a lot of the time, like there's probably a lot of people watching our stream who aren't a big fan of cops, but general people in society do see them as an authority figure. And if they see them acting racist, then if they have those like weird thoughts that have been propagandized into them, then that might be the thing that they need to go, all right, I guess if cops can do it, why can't I do it? You know, whenever there's a spike in people who are sharing around videos about brutality of cops towards people of color, there's usually a spike right afterwards about random people yelling at people of color in public places or attacking them right afterwards. So I don't think it's coincidence. And cops should be setting a better example. If they're supposed to be protecting society, they should be protecting the ethics of society as well.
Yep, definitely. So let's play Jody next. She was there also at the police board, and if the video last time that when we started it kind of jumped ahead to a different part, if it does that, we'll have to just restart it here, but hopefully it'll get it right this time on its mark. Check it out.
You have 5 minutes to
I'll start my timer.
tell us what you have in your mind.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak. And I just want to say those monthly statistical reports, that's incredible. If you haven't had that before, that was very insightful. And I'd like to see more about marijuana and drug arrests and having a breakdown too. I'm here to talk about the respect for the law. I have law enforcement family members. My sister worked as a first responder for 911 and is now Vancouver Police. I have RCMP in my family as well. And I respect the law when it's respectable. And for the vast majority of Canadians, marijuana law enforcement arrests are no longer respectable, and it brings distrust and disrespect towards our law enforcement officers by enforcing these laws. We know from the Toronto Star report, please do read it, that these arrests are racially biased. They target people of color, the poor, minorities, those who are already unfairly treated in our society. And Bill Blair, your former police chief, acknowledged this last year, saying one of the greatest injustices in our country is the racial disparity in the marijuana law enforcement. So right now, I think we can do a great service to our law enforcement and to society by trying to bring back respect towards law enforcement with respect to marijuana law enforcement. In various jurisdictions, including Seattle and a number of U.S. states, Washington, Colorado, California, Hawaii, Missouri, and Arkansas, they have something called lowest law enforcement priority. And this is a priority such that all law enforcement activities related to offenses other than cannabis offenses shall be a higher priority than all law enforcement activities related to cannabis offenses. We're hearing a lot about mental health and a lot about our first responders who are being traumatized and seeing statistics of more people jumping off buildings, horrible crimes, stabbings. That's what our law enforcement should be focusing on. That's what makes you heroes, when you deal with our society and treat people with respect. But when it comes to marijuana law enforcement, it's not respectable, and that's why the law is supposed to be changing. I was arrested for the first time ever myself in this city by the Toronto Police. I'm out on bail, but now a resident of your city as per my bail conditions, and I'm very happy to be a resident of Toronto. It's a beautiful city. It's a wonderful place. It's so diverse, and there's so much going on, but it makes me so sad to see raid after raid of dispensaries when alcohol dispensaries called restaurants and bars, they contribute to increases in violence and sexual assault and all sorts of violence on our streets that impact individuals and society at large. I know police dread the weekend because they're going to have to deal with a lot of drunken people causing harm to themselves and others. But they know, and it's a joke amongst everybody, that, oh, I hope I get a stoner. The most they're going to do harm to is a bag of Doritos. And in Seattle, the Toronto Police gave out bags of Doritos at Seattle Hemp Fest with a little notice saying, we're not going to arrest you. And it was wonderful to be on good terms with the police. And I want that. I want that for you so desperately. I'm tired of seeing this hate and anger towards law enforcement when we should be trying to build more respect. So when we talk about how much money is spent and time and resources on marijuana, it's not just the possession arrests, which are completely unjustified. It's not just the growers and the patients and the dispensaries. But why don't we consider, instead of your next dispensary raids, because they happen every week, what if you designated that money? It's tens of thousands of dollars per raid. But what if you announced to the public, in the interest of public safety and in our law enforcement officers, let's use this marijuana raid money for mental health initiatives for our frontline officers. Yeah! Why don't we give more money towards law enforcement who are dealing with actual crimes, with actual victims and real harm and real trauma, rather than forcing the police to have to go into dispensaries in Kensington Village and other places and to have to cower away with money and cannabis that is really should be benefiting society. So marijuana law enforcement does more harm than good. And in order to bring more respect towards law enforcement, the police board, please consider lowest law enforcement priority. It may not be something the board can do. It might be something the city needs to do, but you can announce that police will make sure that if there's anything else other than a cannabis crime to investigate, that's the priority. And I promise you it will bring more respect to police and a more willingness to engage if we can just pass the peace pipe, stop busting people, and focus on helping our law enforcement and citizens in society who struggle with much greater dangers such as alcohol and hard drugs and all sorts of things that officers see every day. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Amory. Any questions for Ms. Amory? If not, thank you very much for your time.
My microphone again is too loud. Yeah, it's a little heated in there. So yeah, Jody does an amazing job always. That was really great. You know, I wonder sometimes if these cops are listening or if they care. It's just like the HESA hearings, which you can find Jody and Mark speaking to MPs. They did a great job and totally were amazing, but I wonder how many of these politicians are actually listening, because you hear the answers that they respond with. They're just totally like out to lunch essentially still. And speaking of all of that, politicians being out to lunch, we're going to go through some of the provinces and what they're doing about marijuana. Oh, good. I have a big list here. So I have a couple different articles I want to go over with you guys before we wrap the show up. It's already 5:23. I said it was going to be under an hour, but it's already been an hour and 20 minutes. Jeez. I think we started 10 minutes late, though. So there you go. So that's not. Yeah. And we did have to restart, so that's true. That took a piece of time. So let's go through province by province. I have a list here. This is from the Times Colonist. This is details on where the provinces and territories stand on looming pot legalization. Now, that list is a little bit older. That's like a week old now. So I have some other stuff to fill in and some of the later news articles. And so out here in British Columbia, we played that clip from John Horgan, talked a little bit about what's happening here. They say Alberta held public consultations on legalization through the summer. It says it's currently reviewing the results with the hope of having draft rules out this fall. The province's justice minister has previously said Alberta expects help from Ottawa covering any extra costs associated with enforcement. Now, this is something that some of the other provinces are floating right now too. They want money from the feds because Justin Trudeau has now pledged $274 million to the police to enforce legalization. Now, of course, the provinces want a piece too. And granted, I think that where the cops shouldn't get a piece, the provinces should. The provinces have to deal with extra regulations and dealing with all the dispensaries and so on and so forth. They should get a piece. They should get a piece from the dispensaries themselves through taxes, not from the government, or not the federal government. I think that the taxes should be done on a provincial or municipal level and then given back to the provinces that way, and in a free and private market, not a government-run monopoly. So, yeah, we talked about BC, and so we know about what's going on with that. Manitoba here. Oh, they're jumping all over the map, but whatever. Manitoba has been perhaps the loudest voice calling for the federal government to delay legalization. Right, so there's some of these provinces that we don't have enough time. July 2018 is too soon. Which joint is this?
Same old.
But that's ridiculous. How long do we need to wait for marijuana? They should just decriminalize it right away, stop arresting people for it, and then open the free market up to people.
People have been smoking it for thousands of years. So.
It's just ridiculous, all this stuff. But yeah, so the provinces sought, this is Manitoba, the input of potential producers and vendors in the private sector as it considers its options. However, the Manitoba government and General Employees Union is opposed to private sales and is pushing for weed to be sold through government liquor stores. Yeah. Now there's yours is on. Is it working? This whole liquor store model, it's easy for the government to try to control things through the liquor store model. That's where they have experience, because a lot of governments did this, were really against private liquor and controlled all of the liquor distribution in huge ways. That's what Ontario, so why they're transitioning so smoothly, because they still control all the liquor there. Which is just brutal to me, that they don't even really have a big craft beer industry going on there.
Not really. They're really, really restrictive for the craft breweries that are out there in Ontario. And what's really sucks about that is that I mentioned this on another show the other day, but they're the third largest purchaser of alcohol in the world.
Yeah.
So that's a huge amount of revenue that these local breweries are missing out on. And the thing is, they want to be local breweries. They don't want to have to go to another province to just try to start again. They want to be able to have their products in the LCBO, but it's very restrictive.
But they can have it be they don't have to have it as a government service. Why does the government have to be in charge and the only ones who can make any money off selling liquor? Why can't the stores that exist or other places sell liquor themselves?
Well, and you know what's weird too is that in the grocery stores, because now they're selling some stuff in grocery stores. No. I don't know what it's like now, but the last time that I went to one, they pretty much had like Heineken, Budweiser, and that was pretty much it. Like they didn't have any local brands. They didn't have anything that was.
Because
had any taste
they're not
going
to do that, right?
Yeah, I know. So it's just like, it's so restrictive. Even if they open up to more vendors, it's still only allowing a certain amount of distributors to participate. And it's really restrictive. Yeah. And I feel like they're cutting out so many growers out of the market doing this too. It's
where here in BC,
brutal.
we have a whole shellload of craft breweries. You can go into any liquor store and they have like, it's still actually regulated quite heavily where they have these like zones where you can actually have to like be in a physical location to be able to provide it to certain places. And then it's the same thing. The government is the one who buys up all the liquor for the province, and they're the ones who distribute it in British Columbia to not only we have government liquor stores, but we have private liquor stores, but the government is still the ones who distributes to those private liquor stores.
But there's much less restrictive. Like anyone who lives or has lived in Ontario knows, like the LCBO is pretty brutal. Like pretty brutal hours, pretty brutal on the people they allow. Like, you know, I like craft beers. I like beers with a lot of flavor, a lot of hop.
Yeah.
I've tried asking for a good IPA at an LCBO, and Keith's is pretty good.
Shit.
It's like, what? No. You don't know it. That's a lager.
Right. And that's what's going to happen with pot. These guys don't know
exactly.
fuck all about it, and they're going to, these government employees are going to be the ones selling it.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to where in British Columbia, they have it a little more open. And you can go into a local shop that's got, it's a little bit more refined to your style, and it's got more of what you're looking for.
And it has extracts, edibles,
yeah.
all these other things that you won't be able to get at the government liquor store, or I mean, weed store.
That's what I was
so
talking
savage.
about, but when I heard you say extracts, I realized you were on a different page, because you can't get liquor extracts.
So there's the New Brunswick government is recommending selling marijuana through government-operated stores to anyone 19 years of age and older. They just put this recent Crown Corporation. Let's read this one here. This is another article. This is in New Brunswick. New Crown Corporation. This is from the CBC. New Crown Corporation to oversee recreational pot sales in province. The New Brunswick government says it's formed a new Crown Corporation to oversee the sale of recreational marijuana. Two cannabis producers, Organigram and Canopy Growth, have signed agreements to be suppliers, the province announced Friday. Finance Minister Kathy Rogers said the government chose a Crown Corporation model so it would have clear oversight of how recreational pot will be sold. But she also told reporters the Crown Corporation won't run retail operations. Instead, it will work with another entity that will, Rogers said. That sounds strange. Details of the retail model and how and where sales of legalized pot will be carried out and what the other entity, quote unquote, will be are to be worked out in the coming months, Rogers said. This is uncharted territory, she said. Experience will tell us where to go from there. So, it's kind of cool there that the government's at least doing some of it privately, but what is this weird entity? Are they talking about LPs?
What does it usually turn out to be?
Right, and it's a historic day for these pot companies at Canopy Growth and Organigram. Organigram's the one who had the poisonous hydrogen cyanide, allegedly poisonous.
One of many.
Hydrogen cyanide pot that is being sued by the veterans, I think. Is that Organigram? Pretty sure.
I believe so. I thought that might have been Metron.
I did check that out.
We'll
You should try to look that up. I don't want to be saying that if that's not true, because I will apologize heavily to Organigram if that's incorrect. But I think that was the crew that, because I always talk about they're the ones who had the Trailer Park Boys weed, and I think that they were the ones that found with the myclo in the pot. But there's been a bunch of them now that have had this illegal pesticide show up in the weed. Nobody's really sure if it's actually how it's getting into the pot, but it is showing up in it somehow. Is that the class action lawsuit there?
Oh.
Top one, pesticide-laden marijuana spurs third Canadian. No, that one too. This is the Globe and Mail. Pesticide-laden medical marijuana spurs third Canadian lawsuit. Oh, lordy.
I think there's more than one that are getting.
Well, let me just say this here. Growing flowers of cannabis are shown in organogram. A third class action lawsuit launched Tuesday over tainted medical marijuana raises new questions about Health Canada's recent conclusion that patients who consume products containing banned pesticides were unlikely to experience any adverse health consequences. A Nova Scotia man listed in the proposed suit says he became violently ill and unable to keep food down after taking federally regulated medical marijuana purchased from Toronto-based Metrum. Oh, you're right. So that was Metrum. Let's see here. Those claims, unproven in court, are similar to allegations made in two of the proposed class actions already launched over the pesticide problem.
As well as similar to many stories that many activists receive all the time. I know Jody's received. I'm sure you've received many too.
Yeah.
Of people who have horrible side effects from the LP weed.
So this is some scary stuff.
Yeah.
The symptoms also resemble a growing file of evidence being gathered by a group of military veterans who are investigating the situation after being exposed to the tainted products. Several of them say they became bedridden, stricken by nausea and suffering bouts of scary breathing difficulties, among other symptoms. And Scott Wood, a former military policeman who's leading the independent investigation, has gathered evidence from roughly 100 people, including dozens of affected veterans. The group wants Federal Health Minister Jane Philippott to step in, saying the department has not investigated the problem properly or fairly on behalf of the patients, before concluding there was a low risk of serious health problems. And drawing upon his police background, Wood said he spent the past few months cataloging evidence from patients exposed to the banned chemicals in products sold by Metrum and Organogram. And
I thought there was more than one.
I'm dizzy right there for a second. That's funny. I have a bit of vertigo. That's good. Must be good weed. I think it's reading off this. It's funny. So let's see another article here. Yeah, let's get more high here. So yeah, that's New Brunswick then. New Brunswick is allowing these pot companies. Let's read back from this CBC article here. It's a historic day for pot companies in New Brunswick. It says, through agreements with the province, the two suppliers, that's Organogram and Canopy, will provide at least 9 million grams a year for sale in the adult recreational use market. That's it. So blah, blah, blah. These guys, the Canopy Growth president says it's a historic day. Mark Zekulin. If we reflect for a second, we have all these reports and cameras here to talk about one of the biggest drug deals in Canadian history, he said. I think this is pretty exciting. That's a weird thing to say. I don't know about these guys. So let's go back here and see about some of these other provinces. Newfoundland and Labrador isn't necessarily going to follow Ontario's lead as it's working on its model. This is according to the Times Colonist article we've been going through here. Justice Minister Andrew Parsons said Friday a majority of citizens surveyed favored privately owned dispensaries. Yes. Newfoundland, while stakeholders such as health and justice authorities favored using government-owned stores. Well, of course, stakeholders, health and justice authorities favored using government-owned stores. These guys, citizens want, of course, freedom to do everything that they should be able to do. Bureaucrats, health and justice authorities want government-owned things. We want to be able to control it. The nanny state should be stepping in there. Oh, they don't know how this is dangerous. This marijuana is dangerous. We need to be in control of it. Just like alcohol. Like, give me a break. Alcohol actually is dangerous, and you can get it anywhere at any restaurant. You can get it all over the place. You can now get it at barber shops in Vancouver while you get your hair cut. And I don't, there's obviously bad things associated with alcohol and horrible crimes and problems associated with it, but you need to have the freedom. Even though that happens, we seem to be able to understand that there needs to be freedom to consume it, because when I drink alcohol, I don't do that, and so you should have the freedom to drink it. If you're caught doing some crime, that's when you should be in trouble. It shouldn't be them like considering, well, you might do something if we give you this liquor, so we're not going to give it to you, or we're going to raise taxes on it really expensive so that only rich people can get it. Which is wrong. Which is bad. So that's interesting. Newfoundland and Labrador. We'll see what happens with that. Stakeholders want government-owned stores. Citizens want private stores. Parsons said he expects legislation in spring of next year. So next on their list is Northwest Territories. It's in the middle of discussions with residents that include hosting community meetings and an online survey that's garnered a record response for a government online consultation tool. There's a lot of these surveys that everybody is overwhelmed by and saying, oh, we didn't realize everyone was so interested in marijuana. Like, wow.
And at the same time, they've been slipping them out like 1 or 2 days before they're due. Or they'll put them up like a month before, and then they'll only advertise it or publicly announce it like a couple days before.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh, I'll get to that. And then they open the page, and it's like, this is already timed out.
Of course, marijuana.
It's so annoying.
They know that people want marijuana. They know this stuff. They keep pretending, oh, gee, wow, there's all this interest in marijuana. Huh. We
when
didn't know
all of
that
their
that even
friends
existed.
smoke
Never
it,
heard
when
of
they
this stuff.
probably got mad at their kids for smoking it when they were in high school.
70% of Canadians have smoked marijuana or some ludicrous thing. So, come on. Let's see here. Saskatchewan is launching a public consultation on how legalization should happen in this province as well. This is the one I was just reading about earlier. They're so like, wow, overwhelmed. Here's an article. Overwhelming Sask government surprised at enormous response to marijuana legalization survey. The Saskatchewan government, this is in CKRM, the source, 620. In Saskatoon, I guess. In Regina, sorry. Ooh, don't get those two confused. The Saskatchewan government is surprised by the over 30,000 people who have either fully or partially completed a marijuana legalization survey. I wonder how many are partially completed and how many are fully. How many stoners are like, what's going on? Where's my doob? Yeah. There you go. The survey, which has been open for a week and a half, covers topics such as age limits, taxation, impaired driving laws, and public consumption. Don Morgan, Saskatchewan's justice minister, says if people also think there should be more time to decide on the issue of legalizing marijuana in Canada, they should contact federal officials. They keep saying, yeah. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, there needs to be more time. But that's not going to happen. There's been too much time. It's time to actually do things.
Couple hundred too many years.
That's the one thing I have to give props to the Liberals on, at least if they do stick to this July 2018 thing. That's pretty decent. I'm glad they're pushing forward despite cries from provinces. But I wish they were pushing forward with something that was a little bit more free for everybody. Mm-hmm. So Nova Scotia is set to hold consultations with the public in the fall. The Department of Justice is taking the lead on the marijuana file. Uh-oh, that sounds terrible. And says the health of children and youth is the top priority and is looking at various distribution models and its taxation plans. So there's not a lot of commitment from any provinces yet. None of it completed initial stakeholder consultations through the summer of 2017 and is currently holding a public survey. It's all of these public surveys everywhere. All the northern provinces, public surveys. And so there's Quebec. Yes. We were getting into this one. It's currently holding public hearings into the legalization of cannabis and hopes to table legislation this fall. Philippe Couillard says he's certain the concerns about the federal government's plan to legalize the drug, or he has certain concerns about the Fed's plan. He says he understands each province will not have an identical approach to cannabis, but adds, we cannot have vastly different frameworks, particularly for provinces or neighbors. So what he wants is a government run. And of course, they did release this. This is the PQ. So the Parti Québécois has put out what they want. They want a legal age of 18, and they want a marijuana distribution model state-controlled, government-controlled. So, yes, they want their provincially controlled. And they haven't actually, we'll see where they go with that one. There's what I call couche-tard. How do you pronounce that properly? Do you know?
Couche-tard would be my...
Is that close? I don't know.
I'm a little Fringlish, though, so...
I don't know how to pronounce these things.
I'm not from Quebec.
It's
I'm from
Max.
very close to Quebec.
It's Max, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what couche-tard is? Max. I know I'm saying it.
Doesn't Max have the owl, though?
Isn't it Max or what?
Yeah.
What's that?
Alyssa's right. Le Dépenier.
Am I wrong?
Is Max. I don't think that is the...
Let's see.
Because the Macs have the owl logo. See? Oh,
Yeah,
funny.
it is Max. Yeah.
Dude, you should bring up
so
the
for
owl
all
logo.
those, yeah, I'll show the people out there. Let's hear. We'll click on it. That's the for people in English provinces. We know it as Max convenience stores, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so here we'll add a little screen cap over this thing. There it is. Bonk. Right over top of me.
That's the best.
Yeah. So these guys, I'm a couche-tard. I'm definitely a couche-tard. So they still want to sell pot. So these guys want to sell it in their convenience stores. This is an article from 2 days ago on the CB or the Canadian Press. Yes, couche-tard is still interested in selling marijuana, and its co-founder says he thinks provincial government should stay out of selling the product.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, couche-tard.
Elaine Bouchard, the executive chairman of the Quebec-based chain of convenience stores, says Crown Corporation's getting involved in cannabis sales is a step backward after it becomes legal next year. Exactly, it is a step backward. Couche-tard would like to sell cannabis in some of the more than 2,000 stores it operates in Canada. See, that's cool. I say yes. Why not? Let all the convenience stores carry pot. They should be allowed to carry it, and so should, if the liquor stores want to do it, then fine, let them do it too, as long as everybody else is allowed to. I don't really want to go into a liquor store or go into my cannabis store and buy liquor. Those things should probably be separated. But if the company that does it or the government wants to do it, fine, let them set up their stores, but they should have to compete with the rest of us and see who does better, especially if they're not carrying extracts. Like, give me a break.
It's crazy too
They
because
can't
Quebec
compete against us with what they got.
Quebec is one of the most lenient provinces when it comes to alcohol. Like coming from Ottawa, it's really easy to start drinking on the Quebec side in Hull City when you're 14, 15, 16. Yeah. And people do it all over the province because the legal drinking age is 18, and they just make it really lax to let all sorts of people. So people all pretty much drink in Quebec when they're 18 to 20. Of course, Montreal and other places, there's places where that's an exception. But generally, it's pretty easy to start drinking when you're really young in Quebec. And there's also all sorts of places that have insanely cheap alcohol and alcohol that you can buy in really big quantities, like octagons with 80 cans of beers in them and stuff like that. And they're super cheap. So, I don't know. It's crazy that they would be so lenient with alcohol and so restrictive with cannabis because they're just setting up for a black market, and it's crazy. And it blows my mind that anyone could be, any politician could want any of their citizens to choose alcohol as opposed to cannabis.
So this is something kind of related. Cannabis culture is actually involved in a court case that's about alcohol. We're intervening in a court case about a guy who was bringing some beer between provinces, and he had 48 cans of beer or whatever, and he was going over the provinces, and he got popped, and the government has said he's not allowed to do that. He's not allowed to travel over the border with that much liquor. You're only allowed a certain amount, and he had too much. But even though it's for personal use, the government still says it was too much. And so this case is ongoing, and we're going to actually intervene in the case and support him and what he is talking about. From the cannabis perspective, we think that we can do this. Our lawyers think that this is possible and that it might be worth doing because we're challenging the notion that you're not allowed to bring the liquor between different places or cannabis. You should be able to transport liquor or cannabis across borders in Canada because there's something in our Constitution or the charter back in the day, actually it's an old law that says you're not allowed to put something that impedes interprovincial trade. So you're supposed to, in Canada, have interprovincial trade allowed, but this liquor ban, not being able to bring it, would actually impede that. Mm-hmm. So that's never been challenged effectively. I think since the 1920s there hasn't been a case about this, or that's been challenged on this level, that particular aspect of it. So that's why we're going to intervene in it and see if we can hit it up from marijuana level. And so it would mean that they wouldn't be able to stop us from, doing stuff between provinces.
Well, I really like that because I think it, when you've if you are worried about people coming into your province with a bunch of alcohol and selling it as a black market product, that means that there's something wrong with the model that you have in existence. If there's a black market existing, then your regulations are too prohibitive. So I think that it will kind of force the provinces to follow the like most realistic and most sensible common denominator, you know what I mean?
I hope so.
Because I know in Quebec, you're able to get really cheap beers, and I had all sorts of friends in high school, and they'd go and they'd drive across the border, and they'd stock their trunk up, and then they'd come back to Ontario, and then they'd have all sorts of beers that they'd be able to sell to their friends at the summer parties and the tailgates.
When we can use the alcohol comparison, though, we're forgetting or we're not mentioning the fact that you can walk into any place in Ontario, virtually any restaurant or bar, and get liquor.
Right, it's true, but at the same time,
it's not like there's not a lot of liquor
LCBO
around.
being too restrictive.
Right.
Why can't people buy big cases of beer at the LCBO that are bigger than a 2-4? Like, that's ridiculous.
But
you have to special order a keg, or you can get a bunch of 2-4s.
Right.
And it's crazy. You should be able to get good deals. If they can sell it really cheap on the Quebec side, they can sell it really cheap on the Ontario side.
Oh,
so
no,
why
I
are the
agree
prices
with
so
I
much
agree with
higher,
what you're
you know?
saying, but I just mean in general. Like,
Yeah.
I think when they're talking about, the government controls the liquor stores, why can't they control the cannabis?
Yeah.
Well, there's not going to be cannabis restaurants and cannabis bars on every single corner, so it's still not the same thing. They think they're going to be able to supply the entire province with 150 stores by 2020. Like, that's just absolute lunacy.
Again, that's
There's
third
180
largest consumer
in Toronto now.
of alcohol. So imagine how much cannabis they're going to buy, because they're also Canada's largest province. So that's a lot of people there, and there's a lot of big cities. So
it seems wrong. But they see dollar signs in all their eyes, and they're like, cha-ching, we want all this for taxes. And somehow they're going to make all this profit and then find things to spend it on, I guess. Is that right? Are they going to send everybody? Maybe if they'll do this, will they be able to send everybody in Ontario a check every month for the amount of profits that they make from those stores, since those are government stores owned by the people? Where does that money go?
To the millions of dollars for law enforcement, so that the cops can arrest anybody who doesn't like the cannabis that's most likely going to be sprayed with stuff that's toxic and make you sick from the government stores.
The government is a big money sucker. It just wants to take your money and tinker with it and do things and make bureaucracies and make all these other things. There's so much that they do that is pointless, but there's also a lot that they do that's good. So, I mean, I don't want to be, 100%. I think the government can and does do very good things, but it has to be doing the right things. This is not the right thing.
Prohibition 2.0.
Yeah. No, it's brutal. So.
Do you have any more videos?
Nope. That was all of them. So I think we should sign off, and that was all my articles I had. That was the whole thing. How are provinces going to regulate cannabis dispensaries? I guess we'll just have to find out. Oh, wait. I think there was a couple more provinces on the list here, actually.
Did we forget some?
I think we forgot Prince Edward Island.
I was wondering. I thought there was another.
I think we did, yeah. And we talked about Saskatchewan a bit.
Yeah.
They were overwhelmed. Oh, my goodness. All these people. So Prince Edward Island's holding public consultations until the end of September. They're asking.
So go out and speak.
Yeah, get involved. They're asking islanders to weigh in on the legal age where marijuana should be sold, how it is used in public, growing weed at home, among other issues. Growing weed at home, that's supposed to be federal, and everybody's supposed to be able to do it.
I think any province that tries to eliminate that, it's just going to be a matter of I think that most judges will not agree with that, though. I think most people will be able to challenge that, because if you're...
Or maybe that was the PC party, or the PQ party.
Yeah, it was the PQ party.
The Parti Québécois, they don't want home growing.
No, it doesn't make sense, especially because if anyone who's lived at the border between two provinces, they end up feeling a lot of the time like right downtown Ottawa and Hull, they feel like one city pretty much. So it doesn't make sense that people a couple streets apart from each other can grow 4 plants at home, and somebody down the block can't grow any plants. How is that constitutional? That makes no sense. So I feel like that's going to be able to be challenged.
Actually, I was wrong. The PQ party wants to see some controls on home crops, not complete ban, saying an individual be limited to 2 plants and not 4, as the feds proposed.
I think we need to be able to.
That's what they want.
I think we'll need to. Any province that goes against the federal regulation of 4, we'll be able to challenge it. And I think that people will probably be able to challenge the federal regulation of 4, because if you live in a house with 8 people and you're only allowed 4 plants, and someone lives by themselves and they're allowed 4 plants, that makes no sense. So it doesn't make sense constitutionally.
It's
it doesn't
all
agree with our
hogwash.
charter.
You should be able to grow as many tomato plants as you want, as long as it's safe. In
Same
your
with
home.
cannabis.
Same with cannabis.
Or in
So-
your garden too.
Oh,
Bees love cannabis. Save the bees. Grow cannabis.
What happened to our couche-tard? Did it? It's gone. I don't know. It disappeared. Weird. It was. Oh, that's why it just disappeared. That's funny. Anyways, thanks, Pod TV. Love you guys.
Thanks for
It was a
tuning
good
in.
show. Thanks, Boss Lissa on the boards, and Carly Marley for co-hosting, playing Johnny B's role today. Poor Johnny B with his cracked ribs. I think he went to the island though. I saw his Facebook page. I don't know. Last time we talked to him, he was in the doctor's office, still for his cracked ribs. So I'm sure he'll be back when he can.
Yeah.
But thanks for flying with me on the show today.
You're welcome.
And thanks everybody. Tune in all week long on Pod TV. You know, there's all shows all week long. There's 7 of them now. We're not going to go through all of them today, but
I'm on
you
Monday.
know where to find them. This one's on Monday.
And Boss List is on tomorrow.
Boss List is tomorrow. High noon tomorrow. That's next. Make sure to tune in. Peace, Pod TV. We love you.